Howdy guys, it's Abby. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you're new. Today is going to be another debt payoff video. I haven't done one of these in a little while just because I kind of fell off the tracks with keeping up with it. But they're back now. Hopefully these are every month. If I make progress in a month, I don't know. So it's kind of been rocky because I've been self-employed for a little while. I'm going to go ahead and recap everything that that's happened up to now. I do have a whole playlist about all this stuff and like all of my previous videos, so if you want to check that out, I'll link it at the end of the video and also in the description. So this whole journey started in August 2018, so about exactly 2 years ago, and I had about $12,000 in debt. Obviously I'm talking about real numbers in this, so I started out with 2 credit cards and my student loan. So credit card number 1, I owed about $2,700, and then credit card number 2, I owed about $5,400. And then my student loan, I had about $4,000 left. I originally borrowed $6,000, so I paid down some of it, which that's a very, very small student loan. So I was very thankful that I, got out of there pretty quick and didn't have to pay a whole bunch. The minimum payments on that are like 75-ish. I think it's around 50, but I usually pay 75 just to bump it up a little bit extra, and that covers the interest. So the exact total that I started with was about $12,100. So around that time, kind of what was happening, I had just broken up with my ex, and we had lived together for about almost a year, and we lived like around here in an apartment, and then I moved for work to another state pretty far away, and we lived there for about 6 months. During that time, he didn't hold a job and didn't really contribute to so I don't know why I didn't end that sooner, but that's neither here nor there. And basically anything that he made and what jobs he did have, he spent on Mountain Dew cigarettes. I have no explanation as to why. I racked up some debt trying to pay off bills, and also most of credit card number 2 was because we had to terminate the lease early. It wasn't even in his name, it was in my name only because he had an eviction. Long story. But I had to pay off the remainder of the lease because they couldn't find anybody else to rent it out to. If they had found somebody right after we moved out to rent it, then it would have been fine. I just would have had to pay like up until whenever they moved in. But it didn't happen that way. We moved out, which I thought it would kind of fill up easily because it was in like a sort of like a semi-small but still downtown area. And that was we moved out right before like school was starting and stuff. So I think because there was a college there, so like I thought that people would, started looking around that time, but didn't happen. And honestly, I don't know if they weren't advertising it because the place wasn't really, it seemed kind of sketch to me, and like they knew that I was going to be paying the rent, that I didn't want that on my record as if I didn't pay it. So they kind of maybe milked it a little bit, so I couldn't afford to just like keep paying like every month. That was ridiculous, and I didn't want to string it out with them, so I went ahead and got a second credit card because I had one to start with, and I just paid it all, the rest of the lease because I just didn't want to deal with it. Then I also had to pay the electric bill because most of that time after that was in the winter and they had to keep the electric on to keep ice from freezing. I looked it up. I thought that they were responsible for the electric when there was no tenant, but no, it was the previous tenant's responsibility, at least in that state. I don't know how it works everywhere else. Like the neighbor that we kind of kept in contact with our old neighbor, and she was thinking that they were kind of crappy too, and she was like, if I was you, I would turn it off, but I was like, no, I don't want to get in trouble, so I just paid it. So anyways, I had all that debt from paying off the apartment, and I think the first credit card was mostly stuff from just bills and whatever else that we needed, and then I had my student loan. Student loan, I borrowed in around 2013, 2014. It was only for a year's worth, like 2 semesters of classes, and I had some financial aid, so that's why it wasn't so big. When I moved out of the other state and came back here, I had to leave my job because they wouldn't give me my old job back because, obviously it had been 6 months, so it had been filled by somebody else, and they didn't have any positions that I wanted. Like, it was at a call center, and I didn't want, they had jobs that weren't on the phone, but I they didn't have any of those jobs available. So it just like, as to me being like an extreme introvert, like physically talking a lot, it makes me really, really tired. So like usually even after I film videos for a long period of time, I'm really tired afterwards, and I just could not deal with that. Plus being like yelled at and all that stuff. I'm just like, you know what, I'm gonna find somewhere else. And they did not seem interested in like helping me promote or anything like that. So I'm just like, you know what, bye. So I made about $17 an hour at that job, which was pretty good. For the cost of living in Maryland was a lot higher than it is here, I think. Like groceries are more expensive and gas is more expensive, everything else is more expensive, and I had to pay to even park. We had 2 cars, so I had to pay $50 a month, so $100 a month just to park the cars, because it was in the middle of a city and it was in a parking garage. Like it was not included in the rent, which I thought was really weird. The electric bill was out like insane because it was such an old building. All the windows were single pane. That was a nightmare. So I'm glad that I was out of that. So I came back here. I started doing a YouTube for a little bit there, like full time. Well, working on it full time, not getting paid anything, because that was right around when YouTube stopped that partner thing, where it used to be like pretty much anybody, like you only had to have a certain number of views to be monetized on YouTube. So I was monetized at the time. I wasn't making much because I wasn't getting many views, but they changed the requirements. So now I'm not monetized, and I would have, I think I had money like in the account, but it wasn't enough to get paid out. So yeah, that didn't last very long. But I found another job that I worked there part-time with the hopes of moving up to full-time. Eventually I did move up to full-time, which was nice, and I made about $15 an hour there, which is not awful, but at $15 an hour is barely enough to live on. But I'm thankful that I've been able to stay with my parents this whole time, because I would not have been able to afford to live on my own. So when I got full-time at that job, I was able to start saving up and start paying off my debt, and I honestly did not do that as well as I should have. I bought too much stuff because it's like, oh, I have all this money, I can just spend whatever. I wish I would have just like thrown all my money at my debt and then been rid of it, and then that way I would have a lot more in savings. But you know, then while I was there, we had a couple opportunities to go set up new stores, and basically that was just like guaranteed ridiculous amounts of overtime. And then they also paid us for expenses, so we got paid like for mileage and for food and stuff. Well, if you didn't use all the money that they paid you for food, you just got to keep it. So if you ate like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches every day and they paid you like $30 a day for food, you're pocketing all of that. Right around in March of this year, so March 2020, you know, we know what happened in March 2020. I actually put in my notice in the middle of February, before it started to like, you know, get bad, and I didn't really anticipate what would happen. My last day at that place was March 6th, which was pretty much basically everyone else's, like when they started, you know, losing their jobs and all that stuff. Oh, that was a mess. So, but I quit my job there to work for Quilt for Stitchery full time, because I had my debt paid down enough to where it was manageable, and I had a little bit in savings to last me for a few months, because my monthly expenses right now are pretty low, just because I don't have any rent. I don't pay that much for, like, I don't have a car payment, so, you know, basically I pay for like my phone, my car insurance, gas, which I've only filled up my gas tank like twice in the last 5 months, and like Netflix and Spotify and that kind of stuff, but that's, you know, not very much at all. So I forgot to mention earlier, but when I started all this, my goal with paying off my debt and everything was that I wanted to buy a van, fix it up, and go on this big grand road trip of the US. I need to pay off my debt because I didn't want to deal with those payments while I was on the road. You know, I wouldn't have that many expenses. I mean, I'd have to, like, if I financed the van or whatever, I had to pay that and all the gas and all that stuff. That was the end goal, I guess, of paying off my debt, was to pay off debt and then use all the money that I was paying toward my debt and put that towards saving for a van and the renovations and all that stuff. Which now I'm like, what was I thinking? Because I have like pretty bad anxiety, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine like the first day I like leave the driveway and I get like an hour down the road, I'm gonna be freaking out like 'cause I'm by myself. So, and just that was not a good idea. I'm also glad that I didn't do that because like right now, if I was in that right now, I'd be kind of stuck. Like I follow a lot of nomads and people who like do the van life thing right now, and they are just not good because you're not really supposed to travel like between states, and it's just been a mess. So anyways, back to where I was. So I had quit my job there and I paid off my third, which actually I didn't mention this before. I took notes, but not good enough apparently. So at some point during this, I opened up a third credit card because my second credit card was on that 0%. And I owed like $5,000. I was like, oh crap. Like if when that 0% ends, I'm gonna have a lot of interest to pay. So I opened up a third credit card with another 0% interest and was able to get around paying interest. So I would not, I mean, if you can pay something off before the 0%, do that at all costs. Like you don't have to keep opening up new credit cards. So when I worked at that call center, that was for a bank. And when people did that all the time, and I was like, just pay it off. I just don't have any debt. Like, quit, opening cards and like transferring it. That just seems like a lot to keep up with. So I had paid off all of my credit cards for a little bit, but then I think like actually right before I quit that job, I had bought. I was like, I should probably like buy some clothes and stuff because I'm going to need them. And I don't know why I was thinking. And then we also took a mini vacation, like road trip kind of thing before my fiance left for the army, which I've talked about that in my Get Ready With Me videos. So if you want to go learn more about that, I'll, go to the recent Get Ready With Me videos. But basically we just took a little trip before he left and I put that on the credit card. So it wasn't much though, like we drove and it wasn't very far away, but still. It wasn't like we were buying plane tickets to Aruba or anything like that. So I've been focusing on paying off the credit card as of recent because, as of late, what am I talking about? So recently I have been focusing on paying off that last credit card because it is accruing interest because way past the 0% time frame. And I haven't been paying much towards my student loan because of the CARES Act. I don't have any interest on my student loan because it's a government loan, and also I'm not required to make any payments right now. I am making the minimum payment just like out of an abundance of caution for myself because I'm like, what if they screw something up, and it gets like reported to my credit that was late one month. So I've been paying at least the minimum. I have just been focusing on my credit card because it's obviously accruing interest and I want to save money where I can, whereas the student loan, no interest, it's just sitting there, and it's not going to benefit me much to pay it off early, especially with such a low balance on it right now. As of right now, the balance on my credit card number 3 is about $250, and then my student loan is sitting at about $1,200 and not accruing interest. I'm not too worried about it. And also my bank, I mentioned this in other videos too, but my bank, every time I make a purchase with my debit card, they round it up and take that money and put it towards my student loan. So I've paid off quite a bit of money through that. I don't know. I want to like log into my account and see how much that I have paid. Oh my gosh. So I hadn't looked at this in probably like 2 years. It just kind of does it automatically. I don't really think about it. But since I started doing this program, it's paid $326.18 toward my student loan. That's a pretty big chunk. So I guess that's helped a lot. It mostly pays for the interest payments, so everything that I'm paying is going toward the principal, which now I'm not really charging much to my debit card because I'm not really going anywhere. I do grocery pickup and that's pretty much it. So my goal going forward is to pay off my debt entirely by the end of October. Hopefully sooner than that because the CARES Act runs out at the end of September unless they change it, which I don't foresee them doing. I don't want to pay the interest. I mean, even though like it has a pretty low interest rate, it's not as high as my credit card, like not nearly as high, but I just don't want to pay any more than I have to. And I've heard rumors about a second stimulus check, which would like totally take out that. But also I'm kind of going back and forth on that because like stimulus checks, I'm trying to be responsible, and they're supposed to be for like stimulating the economy. So I feel like I should, I don't know. I mean, it's the same amount of money either way. So I guess I don't know why I'm like overthinking it. So as of right now, I have about $1,400 left to pay off. Again, I'm trying to do that by the end of October. and I have been able to pay off quite a bit from my sales. I sell on Etsy. That's my primary source of income. I'm trying to scoot it over to my Shopify website because Etsy has a lot of fees, and the website doesn't work very well a lot of the time. But what saved my butt, because I was doing pretty well with sales up until, you know, everybody else lost their jobs too, so they weren't really like buying anything that they didn't really need. I mean, the stuff that I sell is mostly like utilitarian, like you can use it, you know, it's not like just for looks. What saved me was though that I can make face masks, and I've been selling a lot of those. So if you need one, my link is in the description box for my website, quiltforcentury.com. I have the most selection on there, but I do have some on Etsy as well. And I'm adding new prints soon-ish. I ordered the fabric. It should be here in a couple weeks. But that was it for my debt payoff progress so far. So you can check out my most recent video up here, or you can check out my money playlist up here. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss seeing my face in your subscription box every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I upload at noon Eastern Standard Time. My social media, my business links, and anything else that I mentioned in the video, I don't think I really have anything else to link up here, but that'll all be in the description box as well. And I will catch you in the comments. Bye.